Welcome on in to Tossin the Pigskin. I'm your host, Nate Smith. Today we will discuss all the latest NFL news. Week 11 is upon us. We will preview the best games to come this weekend. We will also break down what we saw from Titans Steelers, and as always, we'll give you the best fantasy advice this side of the Mississippi. Let's go! But first, let's get right to it with a little TNB, Thursday Night Breakdown. I will be the first to admit I thought the Steelers were a fraud. As they kept stacking up wins, I continued to focus on the flaws of this football team and didn't give them much credit at all, especially after last week's ugly win against the Colts. I was feeling good about my prediction, but I can't hate any longer. The Steelers made a statement on Thursday night, blowing the Titans clear out of the water. The game really wasn't close at any point, and Big Ben finally looked like his old self. But the story of this game is a man by the name of Antonio Brown. The best receiver in the league had himself a field day, folks, against the Tennessee secondary that isn't exactly known for lockdown coverage. Brown posted 10 catches for 144 yards and 3 touchdowns. He dominated the game from the opening snap and showcased his talents in front of a national audience. As far as the Titans are concerned, they turned into an embarrassing performance. This is a quarterback-driven league, and Marcus Mariota was outright horrid. He threw 4 picks and just looked downright uncomfortable throughout the whole night. If the Titans want to secure a playoff spot, he will have to be better. So, guys, we saw it on display last night. I'm joined alongside Vinny, Asito, and a new guest to the show, Matt Kling.
Great to be here.
Excited to have you, Kling. Anyways, let's get right into it. So, Steelers and Titans on Thursday night had some high expectations going into the game as far as an entertainment value. Vinny, I'll start with you. The Steelers are now sitting at 8-2 after a blowout win. Are they for real?
I mean, I can't disagree with you. They did look good last night, but it just seems like every year we ask that question, is this the year the Steelers beat the Patriots? Is this the year the Chiefs beat the Patriots? And I just don't see it happening still. I think Tom Brady has that team still above a different level than the Steelers are right now. So my pick is still the Patriots to come out of the AFC, but I still think they could give them a run for the money, but I don't think they make it to the Super Bowl.
I think they might be the only other team in the AFC besides the Patriots that could make the Super Bowl. But there's one concern, and that is health. Right now, they're relatively healthy. Big Ben hasn't sustained an injury that he'll miss a few games like he does almost every year. That's one of the ways that they're succeeding. Le'Veon Bell's been relatively healthy. So is Brown. Plus, they have Juju Smith-Schuster,
right,
a phenom rookie out of USC who's putting in great performances week after week.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I'm still torn, honestly, because I agree with you, Vin. They looked really good last night. No one can argue that. They've had a lot of games this season. Like, they had a bad loss to the Bears, an ugly win against the Colts. And I think it is a team that plays well in bigger games. I'll give them that. And there's no secret, offensively they're explosive, but defensively they're very young. You know, you got guys like T.J. Watt. They brought in Joe Hayden in the offseason. I mean, he's not so young, but they have a lot of new pieces, still trying to be a cohesive unit. And I just wonder if they can lean on that young defense when the games really start mattering. You know, you talk about the end of the season and entering the playoffs, so that'll be something to keep an eye on. All right, so moving on to a little different topic, we'll talk about teams that have surprised you this season. Kling, who's your big surprise of the year so far?
Well, any team in the NFC that's leading a division would be considered a surprise for me, but I'm going to go with the New Orleans Saints, Nate. They started the season out with 2 straight losses, and they haven't lost since. Drew Brees is looking like vintage Drew Brees. They have the great passing attack, but they also have a great run game. With Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram, if you remember last week, the game against the Bills, all their touchdowns were scored on the ground. It was 47-10. There were no passing touchdowns in the game. And speaking of the 10 that they gave up, their defense has improved significantly. And that is why that they are in a position potentially to make it to the Super Bowl out of the NFC.
And in my opinion, Marshawn Lattimore, their rookie corner of Ohio State, he's probably going to win Defensive Rookie of the Year. That dude can play.
Yeah.
Then who's your surprise so far?
I'm going back to the AFC. I think Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, beginning of the year, you had guys like Calais Campbell come out and say they're going to win the Super Bowl, and all you could do was laugh at that. But here we are, Week 11. After Tennessee's loss last night, they're 6-3, alone in that division, in first place.
They should be 7-3 after they play the Browns on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, wouldn't doubt it. But yeah, I mean, to see where they were just a few years ago to where they are now, I mean, you got to give Tom Coughlin a shout out, and I mean, props to Jacksonville for bringing him in and pretty much turning that whole team around, whole organization. I mean, they have a strong reputation now.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the last 2 years, they brought in Jalen Ramsey, A.J. Boye, Malik Jackson, Miles Jack through the draft. You mentioned Calais Campbell. Like, those 5 guys are all starters for that team, and a lot of them are young. Some of them, Calais Campbell's not that young, but, I mean, everyone thought, obviously, that core had talent, but it was just whether or not they could put it together, but it really looks like they're doing it so far.
I mean, the QB situation, no one really knew how it was going to work out.
See, that's a big thing for me with the Jags. They cannot win a Super Bowl with Bortles at quarterback.
They might win a Super Bowl with the defense, but also Leonard Fournette is doing a great job on offense as well.
Absolutely,
when
absolutely.
he plays.
For me, my surprise team's got to be the Rams. I mean, just the whole big move to LA, getting rid of Jeff Fisher a couple years ago, you know, everything with all the turmoil. Last year, this was one of the worst offenses in the league. You bring in new head coach Sean McVay in the offseason. Jeff Fisher's out. Jared Goff has a pretty rough first year, only plays, I think it was around 8 games. He played about half the season. And now they lead the league in points scored. What? Their only major addition was Sammy Watkins, who honestly, considering all the hype he had pre-NFL, he hasn't exactly lived up to what people thought he would be. Still a solid player. But you got guys like Robert Woods, Todd Gurley with the resurgence, having a great year.
Todd Gurley can win MVP.
He could, honestly. He's looking like his rookie self after that horrid year he had last year. They improved the O-line. They brought in Andrew Whitworth. And Sean McVay's got to be coach of the year at this point, right?
Absolutely.
Hands down.
Yeah.
I mean, just those 3 teams we mentioned. I mean, just last year, all 3 of those teams, who would have thought? It's crazy.
Seriously. All righty. After the break, we will take a look at this weekend's slate of games and give you our predictions. Keep it here. Welcome back in, folks. Before we get to the game of slates for this weekend, we have one other thing we'd like to touch on. We talked about surprises, but what about disappointments? Kling, who's your disappointing team so far this season?
I'm going to say the Denver Broncos. Early on in the season, they looked like a potential legitimate AFC threat. They had a big win over the Cowboys in Week 2, and all that's turned out to be was just a fluke. Trevor Siemian really struggled himself out of a job. Brock Osweiler's in there, and Brock Osweiler is not looking good. And the defense. What happened to that defense? They gave up 51 of the Eagles, granted they were on the road, but they come home on Sunday night, play the Patriots, they give up 41. That team is in turmoil right now. They need a little bit of changes, even though they have a new head coach, Vance Joseph. They just need to do a better job. They're my disappointment so far.
Seems like ever since they got rid of TJ Ward, the defense is going downhill.
Yeah. Ben, what do you think? Who's your disappointment?
Well, I mentioned Tom Coughlin earlier, so I'm going to go to the organization that let him go, the New York Giants. I mean, they're not much of a team at this point right now. Ben McAdoo, I'm not sure what's going on with him. He's completely lost the locker room, it seems like. And, yes, they've had some injuries, but Week 11, 1 win. Come on.
And that win against the Denver Broncos.
Right. Not going to get it done. For me, it's got to be the Dallas Cowboys, man. I mean, they come in off a great year last year, going 13-3, winning the NFC East. Obviously, the early exit to the Packers once again. But it's just unbelievable to me, honestly. They're sitting at 5-4. Great chance they're sitting at 5-5 after they play the Eagles on Sunday night. We'll get to that in a bit. But it's just nothing is clicking for them. They got injuries, the whole Zeke suspension, and injuries to Dan Bailey, Sean Lee, and Tyrone Smith. Those are 3 of your most important players, especially Tyrone Smith, man. Left tackle. It's Sean Lee on the defense. He's the guy on that defense. He's an all-pro linebacker. I mean, when he's out of the game, it's a big difference. So for me, it's got to be the Dallas Cowboys. All right, let's move to predictions here for this weekend's slate of games. So morning slate, this might be the best game of the week, honestly. Rams at Vikings. Kling, what are we thinking?
I'm thinking Vikings. They have the home field. They have one of the best defenses in the NFC. And Everson Griffin missed last week. Mm-hmm. If he's back this week, he should be bringing pressure to Jared Goff. And also, Case Keenum right now, he's not only playing against his former team, they're talking about maybe bringing Teddy Bridgewater in at some point to start since he's back healthy off the IR and a backup. Keenan's playing to keep his job. He played absolutely phenomenal last week against the Redskins. I'm going to say that will help lead the Vikings to a victory this week.
Ben, what do you think?
I'm going to say this is my upset of the week. I think the Rams keep it rolling. I mean, that offense is completely revamped. But something interesting to allude to, like you said, if Case Keenum starts struggling early, like I don't think he has much leeway. If he's struggling, I think we see Teddy Bridgewater, and that'll make things very interesting in that game.
I disagree with that. I think you got to roll with Keenum regardless. I mean, he's been your guy. He's gotten you to this point. So if it's me, I stick with Keenum even if he's struggling a little bit. You got to show some trust at some point. I like the Vikings in this one. Minnesota, very tough place to play. It's getting cold weather. I know they got the new stadium, they got the dome now, but still, just the whole atmosphere. Viking fans will be rowdy. I like the Vikings this one. I think young quarterback Jared Goff, I think he'll struggle in this one.
And it's also a must-win game because for the Vikings because they then have to go on the road on Thanksgiving to play at the Lions.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't go
Must win?
It's not must win.
It's a should win because in a matter of a week they could be down from 2 losses to 4 losses, potentially tied for first place.
Right.
All right, let's keep it moving here. Redskins at Saints. Vin, who are you liking this one?
I think the leadership and professionalism of Drew Brees is the main reason they are where they are right now.
Yeah.
I think the Saints keep it rolling just like the Rams, but I mean they're playing Washington. I just don't see them slowing them down, and it's in New Orleans, so I like the Saints to win.
Kling, what do we think?
I like the Saints' chances at the Superdome. It could be a shootout, but I do think the Saints' defense is better than Washington's, but also their running attack. Washington only has Chris Thompson starting this week because Rob Kelly is hurt. They'll be going with some backups. They still have New Orleans has Ingram. They have Kamara. Could be another big running day.
Saints play defense, and they can run the ball. I haven't said that sentence in seems like a decade or so.
And they can still pass the ball, too.
Still throw the ball with the best of them. So they rushed for 6 rushing touchdowns last week against Buffalo. I like the Saints big in this one, honestly, at least by a couple scores. Alrighty, Patriots at Raiders in Mexico. Kling, what do you think?
Well, in Estadio Azteca, it's miles above. It's miles above sea level.
They got the high elevation.
It's higher than Mile High Stadium in Denver. I'll say that. I'm going to say this is going to be a shootout south of the border, but I'm going to pick the Patriots to win because they're balanced at every skill position on offense.
Yeah.
Wide receiver, tight end now with Martellus Bennett back and miraculously healthy. They're young wideouts. I can see the Raiders putting up a fight, but I believe the Patriots are going to hold on and win.
Ben, what do you think?
I'm going to disagree. I think the Patriots handle this game. I mean, the Raiders defense, it's week 11. They're yet to have an interception all year. So with that said, I think Brady has a field day, and I think they win. I
think Brady has a field day as well. Raiders are not good on defense. 22nd in the league in passing yards per game. Patriots are first. So I feel like that's a recipe for a disaster. Pats play no defense, though, so I think the shootout theme could be looking good. All right, Sunday Night Football, Eagles at Cowboys. Kling, are we going to see a blowout?
No, we're not going to see a blowout. It will not be as a blowout as the Eagles were against the Broncos or against the Cardinals. I do think it's about a 2-touchdown game. I can easily see the Eagles winning this game. If the Cowboys want any shot to win, they might have to play 7 linemen because the Eagles' defense is really good. And also, the Cowboys don't have great running backs now without Elliott. And the Eagles' run defense is really strong as well.
Yeah. Ben, what do you think?
I mean, like you said earlier, no Tyron Smith, no Zeke. I just don't see I don't see Dak being able to really function well in that offense right now, especially what happened last week with Claiborne sacking him 6 times. I mean, watch out for the Eagles' defense this week. Yeah,
D-line is one of their strengths, just their front 7 in general. So Tyron Smith is confirmed out, by the way. So yeah, I think the Cowboys are in some big trouble. I think they're losing this. I hope they keep it close for entertainment value, and I think they could. It's a divisional game. You never know, but I think they lose by at least 10 points, honestly. All right, Falcons at Seahawks on Monday night. Vin, what do you think about this one?
I take the Seahawks. They're at home. It's a big stage. Russell Wilson always seems to show up then, so it does have a potential to be a shootout, I would say. Falcons' defense isn't anything special, but I think, like I said, at home, Seahawks get the win.
I'm going to disagree with you. This is going to be my upset of the week. I'm going to go with Atlanta. The Seattle's defense is a little bit banged up. Maybe no Cam Chancellor in this game. No Richard Sherman. He's done for the year. The Atlanta offense was clicking on all cylinders last Sunday, and their defense stepped up as well against a little bit of a depleted Cowboys offense. But nonetheless, I think the momentum from that game, the Falcons really need momentum to keep going and make a playoff spot this year. They're in a really tough division, and I think they're going to win this game.
I like the Seahawks in this one since I guess I got to get off my Steelers fraudulent bandwagon. This is my new fraudulent team, the Atlanta Falcons. I do not believe in them one bit. I think the Cowboys played their worst game the entire season last week. I really don't put too much weight on that win. You do mention, though, the Seahawks injuries in the secondary to Chancellor and Sherman. That's a big deal, especially if Chancellor also doesn't play. So it looks like the Falcons will probably be able to move the ball, but I still like the Seahawks in this one. Alrighty, after the break, we will get into the final segment, Little Fantasy. Keep it here, folks. Welcome back on in, folks. Thanks for joining us here at Tossin the Pigskin. Now it's time for the fantasy segment. We'll start with sleepers. We'll mix it up this week. Kling, who's your sleeper of the week?
I'm going to go with the defense. I'm going to say the Texans defense. I've played them several times this season as one of my defenses. And
how's that working out for you?
Well, some weeks they've had some bad performances, but this week they're facing Blaine Gabbert and the Arizona Cardinals. It should be a handle. They should handle him and the Arizona offense pretty well. They're hosting the game as well. I do believe to start the Texans defense this week as a sleeper.
Against the Blaine train. Vin, who you like
I'm
as a
going
sleeper?
with Evan Ingram, the New York Giants tight end.
Okay.
I mean, other than Sterling Shepard, he's really the only weapon that they have, and he scored a touchdown in 4 straight games so far, so I think he gets his 5th straight game with a touchdown, so I think he's a sleeper this week.
For me, I got to go Jay Ajayi. The Dallas rushing defense without Sean Lee is just abominable. They cannot stop anyone. And I think Ajayi is really going to assert himself as the true #1 in Philadelphia after this game. Recently acquired from Miami. Dude's a beast. I mean, he rushed for over 1,200 yards last year, and he's young, too. He's under 25. I just think, honestly, he'll tear the Dallas defense up. So I like Jay Ajayi as a sleeper. All right, for sit-ems, Kling, who are you sitting this week?
I'm going to sit Dak Prescott against those Eagles. They have a really good defense, the Eagles do. Dak Prescott, banged up offensive line, no weapon in Zeke Elliott. I mean, he's still got Bryant, he's still got Beasley. Jason Witten always seems to do well against the Eagles at a tight end, but they might really need him to block Prescott's blind side. I just wouldn't risk it with him in fantasy this week.
It's a good call. Vin, what do you think?
I'm sticking the NFC East and sticking with a quarterback. I'm going with Kirk Cousins.
Okay.
No Jordan Reed this week,
Yeah.
no Terrell Pryor this week, and like we said, they're in New Orleans, so I don't see him putting up much points this week.
To be fair, Terrell Pryor hasn't been anywhere,
Right,
even when he's on the field.
That's
So
just
yeah,
another weapon that
you're right, though.
without, so.
You're right. For me, I got to go C.J. Anderson. He's up against Cincinnati. It's not even that Cincinnati's defense is all that great. It's just C.J. Anderson, and that entire offense has just looked horrible.
Yeah,
when you don't have a quarterback, you can put 8 in the box and say, I dare you to run it, and it hasn't worked. Since week 4, that's the last time C.J. Anderson had a double-digit fantasy day. So
Brutal.
he's been rough. All right, for stardoms, I really like Dion Lewis down in Mexico against the Raiders. Raiders are the 29th ranked defense against fantasy running backs. So I look for him to have a big day and a very balanced New England attack.
He had that big kick return last week.
He did have that, yeah. There's another 6 right there if he gets another one of those. What do you think?
I'm taking Coleman, Tevin Coleman out of Atlanta. I did say Seattle would win the game, but Devontae Freeman's banged up with a concussion, so especially out of the backfield. PPR leagues, I like Coleman.
And I'm going to stay at Estadio Azteca, but I'm going to go with Derek Carr.
Okay.
The Patriots defense, not that good. I can see him having a really good day with Crabtree, with Cooper, his receiving core, down south of the border. I still say Patriots going to win that game, but I do think Carr's going to put up numbers.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the weekend's going to be great. A lot of great games, a lot of nice fantasy implications, so it should be a good one.
Playoffs
as always.
coming around the corner, too, in fantasy.
Week 11
It's
already.
football season, baby. Cannot complain. For Vinny Asito and Matt Kling, I'm Nate Smith. Thanks for joining us here at Coast to Coast Sports. Have a great weekend.